Have you ever walked into a room, a space previously filled with ambient chatter or quietude, and felt the air crackle with an almost electric tension? The entire energy, the very atmosphere of the place, shifts palpably, sometimes dramatically. Even before a single word has escaped your lips, before you've even made eye contact with anyone present, suddenly, lively conversations hush to awkward whispers, or cease altogether. Gazes that were open and relaxed become guarded, furtive, or perhaps even subtly hostile. An almost palpable, invisible shield of defensiveness seems to hang in the air, thick and suffocating. You're left standing there, perhaps feeling a flush of confusion or a prickle of self-consciousness, wondering, what just happened? What did I do? Did I interrupt something? Is there something on my face? But here's a stark, often unspoken, and frequently misunderstood reality, one that seldom finds its way into polite conversation or self-help manuals. When your personal energy, your intrinsic vibrational signature, is genuinely potent, clear, and authentic, it doesn't just passively influence its surroundings. It can, and often does, profoundly unsettle those around you. It can, quite frankly, and without any malicious intent on your part, disturb the hell out of them, shaking the very foundations of their carefully constructed comfort zones. This isn't because you're radiating negativity, malice, or doing anything inherently wrong, aggressive, or provocative. Paradoxically, and this is a crucial distinction to grasp, it's often because your very presence, your authentic essence, your unshielded truth, acts like an unwelcomed, intensely bright spotlight, suddenly cast upon everything they've desperately, perhaps unconsciously, tried to conceal from themselves and from the world. The hidden, dusty corners of their own being they'd rather not acknowledge. The unexamined beliefs, the suppressed emotions, the uncomfortable truths they've swept under the rug of their consciousness. The brilliant thinker and depth psychologist, often cited as Shi Heng Yi, a name that resonates with the wisdom of figures like Carl Jung, illuminated this phenomenon with profound clarity, speaking often and eloquently about the shadow, those disowned, unclaimed, or repressed parts of ourselves. These are the insecurities we meticulously hide, the fears we deny, the unexpressed desires we bury so deep we almost convince ourselves and others that they simply don't exist. These are the parts of us that don't fit our idealized self-image or the persona we present to the world. But your energy, if it is vibrant, clear, and integrated, acts as an unconscious alarm bell, a resonant frequency that, without any deliberate effort on your part, begins to wake up these dormant, often uncomfortable, shadows in others. It's like striking a tuning fork in a room full of unplayed instruments. Those instruments tuned to a similar or dissonant but related frequency will begin to vibrate in response. This is the hidden, often entirely unconscious reason they might suddenly act strangely, defensively, or even aggressively around you. The awkward, prolonged silences where conversation once flowed. The defensive postures, crossed arms, averted gaze, tightened jaw, the passive-aggressive remarks, barbed with subtle sarcasm or veiled criticism, or those brittle fake smiles that barely conceal a deep-seated inexplicable tension, a discomfort they can't quite name but feel acutely in your presence. Understand this with absolute, unwavering clarity. Their reaction is rarely, if ever, truly about you personally, about your character, your intentions, or your actions in that specific moment. It's a visceral, primal, often deeply unconscious response to what your authentic presence inadvertently, yet powerfully, triggers within them, within the unlit chambers of their own psyche. If you've ever been labeled too intense, too much, too sensitive, or intimidating, or if you've ever felt a strange, gnawing guilt or a sense of being fundamentally wrong, simply for existing, for being yourself, then lean in, listen closely, because until you grasp the profound dynamics of how to manage, shield, and consciously direct this powerful energetic signature of yours, you'll unconsciously, almost inevitably, continue to shrink yourself, to dim your light, to make others comfortable at the expense of your own vitality. A slow, quiet, tragic drain on your very life force. A self-imposed exile from your own brilliance. I'm not just going to explain why this perplexing and often painful phenomenon happens, though understanding the why is crucial for releasing self-blame. I'm going to unveil with as much clarity and practical detail as possible precisely how to safeguard your precious energy, how to erect invisible yet impenetrable boundaries, energetic shields that genuinely work, not as walls of isolation but as filters of discernment, and finally, how to cease being an unwitting sponge, constantly absorbing the emotional and psychic chaos of others, and instead become a conscious, sovereign, energetic being. By the time we're through this exploration, you'll understand not only why people react to you the way they do, often in ways that seem disproportionate or irrational, but more crucially, you'll possess the tools and the mindset to stop diminishing your authentic brilliance, merely to soothe their unacknowledged insecurities or to navigate their unhealed wounds. You will learn to stand fully in your power, compassionately but unapologetically. Now, before we delve deeper into these intriguing and often life-altering energetic dynamics, let's clarify one absolutely critical, foundational point. What in the world, precisely and practically, do we actually mean by energy in this context? Because if we don't establish a clear, grounded, and relatable understanding right at the outset, this entire conversation risks being dismissed by the skeptical mind as mere woo-woo fluff, some kind of vague, esoteric, new age nonsense untethered from reality. And let me assure you, with all sincerity, this exploration is far from it. We are venturing into realms that bridge profound psychology, particularly depth psychology and trauma-informed perspectives, with the emerging understandings of fundamental physics, neuroscience, and even ancient wisdom traditions that have spoken of these subtle forces for millennia. This is real. This is tangible, even if not always visible to the untrained eye or measurable by conventional instruments. When I speak of your energy, I'm not primarily referring to the aesthetic or ritualistic use of crystals, the burning of incense or moonlit chants, though those practices can indeed be beautiful, meaningful, and even energetically potent for some individuals, as ways to focus intention or shift consciousness. Instead, I'm talking about the undeniable, palpable, and constantly radiating field that you carry with you, that emanates from your very being, much like heat from a fire or fragrance from a flower. It's what the insightful, perhaps metaphorical figure of Shi Heng Yi might describe in terms of vital force, akin to ki, prana, internal cultivation, or the radiance of the spirit. This isn't some vague, ill-defined aura that only gifted psychics can perceive. It's the tangible, cumulative manifestation of your thoughts, both conscious and unconscious, your dominant emotional states, your deeply held beliefs, your unhealed wounds, your level of self-awareness, your physical vitality, and your unconscious drives, all coalescing, intermingling, and vibrating together to create a distinct energetic charge, a unique personal atmosphere that surrounds you and extends beyond the physical confines of your body. And this charge, this personal energetic atmosphere, isn't neatly contained within your skin like water in a bottle. It leaks, it expands, it broadcasts itself, silently but powerfully, into the world around you, interacting with the energetic fields of other people, animals, plants, and even places. The wisdom attributed to Shi Heng Yi often speaks to how every individual navigates the world, not just as a physical body, but as an energetic presence, a field of influence, constantly and often unconsciously interacting with and being affected by the fields of others. So when you're conversing with someone, you're not merely engaging with their spoken words, their facial expressions, their body language. You are, on a much deeper, more subtle level, interfacing with their unconscious mind, their accumulated life experiences, their childhood wounds, both healed and unhealed, their hidden fears and anxieties, their unspoken desires and frustrations, the entirety of their inner energetic landscape. This is precisely why some individuals exude an instant, almost magnetic warmth and trustworthiness, drawing you in with an unspoken sense of safety and acceptance, while others, despite perhaps saying all the right things, just feel inexplicably off, creating a subtle but undeniable sense of unease, a desire to withdraw, or even a feeling of being energetically drained in their presence. Your subtle bodies are communicating whether your conscious minds are aware of it or not. Now, let's fast forward from these more intuitive or traditional understandings to the insights of modern science, which are increasingly and fascinatingly beginning to echo these ancient sentiments. What does quantum physics, the the most fundamental of our physical sciences, reveal. It echoes this concept of an interconnected, energetic reality with resounding, almost startling clarity. Everything at its most fundamental subatomic level is energy, matter. The very stuff of our seemingly solid physical world is now understood to be condensed, vibrating energy, a temporary manifestation of underlying quantum fields, thoughts. Those seemingly intangible, ephemeral processes occurring in our minds are not just abstract concepts. They generate measurable electromagnetic frequencies. They have an energetic signature. Emotions, too, are powerful forms of biochemical and bioenergetic energy, capable of profoundly influencing our physiology and radiating outwards. Your physical body is literally a dynamic, ever-changing symphony of trillions of vibrating atoms, cells, and energetic pathways, all in perpetual, intricate motion. And much like one tuning fork, when struck, can cause another nearby tuning fork tuned to the same or a harmonic frequency to resonate, to vibrate in sympathy. Your internal state, the sum total of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and intentions, your overall vibration palpably, measurably affects the people and even the environment around you, often without a single word being exchanged, without any conscious intention to influence. Think about it from your own direct experience. Have you ever walked into a room where two people have just had a silent but intensely charged argument? They're not yelling anymore. Perhaps they're not even looking at each other. They might be pretending everything is fine, but you feel it, don't you? That palpable, almost suffocating tension, like static electricity in the air, a heaviness that makes you want to turn around and leave. That's not your imagination playing tricks on you. That's energy residue. That's the lingering vibratory signature of their anger, their resentment, their unspoken pain. Your nervous system, a highly sophisticated and exquisitely sensitive receiver of energetic information, detects that dissonance, that incoherence, without anyone needing to spell it out for you. Conversely, have you ever met someone whose mere presence, even before they speak, instantly made you feel calm, safe, and at ease, as if your whole body just let out a deep sigh of relief you didn't even know it was holding? That too is energy. You're unconsciously, and often quite rapidly, syncing up with their coherent, harmonious frequency, your nervous system mirroring their state of inner peace and coherence. Look into the field of neuroscience, and you'll find concepts like mirror neurons, those remarkable brain cells that fire both when an animal acts and when the animal observes the same action performed by another. These neurons are considered the biological basis of empathy, imitation, social learning, and our profound innate capacity to feel and respond to the emotional and intentional states of others, often bypassing conscious analytical thought entirely. We are, at a fundamental neurological level, wired for connection, for resonance, for energetic exchange. So when I say your authentic, potent energy can disturb people, I'm not being merely poetic or metaphorical. I'm stating that the unique energetic frequency you carry, a frequency shaped by your level of self-awareness, your unresolved traumas, or your progress in healing them, your inner confidence and self-acceptance, your clarity of intention, your connection to your deeper purpose, all of it is tangibly, palpably felt by others, whether they are consciously aware of it or not, whether they can articulate it or not. Shi Heng Yi, or thinkers in that vein, might emphasize that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Now, flip that. When someone else hasn't faced their own unconscious material, their own shadow, and you walk in fully present, embodied, and radiating your integrated, authentic self, your energy becomes an unsolicited, often unwelcome mirror. And very often they deeply instinctively dislike or even fear what that clear reflection forces them to glimpse, however fleetingly, within the unacknowledged depths of themselves. So no, you're not just imagining it. You're not too much or too sensitive in a pathological sense. You are, quite possibly, just finely tuned into the subtle realities of energy and consciousness. And in a world where many are still spiritually asleep, emotionally numb, or actively avoiding their inner truths, that level of authentic attunement is rare enough and potent enough to rattle them to their core. Let's start with one of the most subtle yet powerfully telling and often confusing signs that your energy is making significant waves, rippling through the energetic fields of those around you. People feel inexplicably, sometimes intensely, nervous or awkward in your presence, even when you haven't done a single overt thing to provoke such a reaction. You haven't raised your voice, uttered a controversial or critical word. Perhaps you've barely even spoken, or you've been nothing but polite and unassuming. Yet you notice the shift, the subtle but undeniable change in their demeanor, the moment you enter their space or engage with them. Their body language, which may have been relaxed and open moments before, becomes tight, constrained, defensive. They might avoid direct, sustained eye contact, their gaze flitting around nervously. Their laughter, if any, sounds a little too forced, a little too high-pitched, a little too quick, lacking genuine mirth. Their hands might fidget restlessly, tapping fingers, wringing hands, playing with objects, betraying an inner agitation they are trying to conceal. You're sitting there, perhaps feeling calm and composed yourself, silently wondering, with a growing sense of bewilderment or even self-doubt, what on earth did I do? Why are they acting so strangely? The truth is, in most such instances, you likely did nothing overt, nothing wrong in the conventional sense. Your energy did the talking. Your very presence, your vibrational signature, spoke volumes before your words even had a chance. People who are navigating life largely disconnected from their own inner chaos, their unacknowledged pain, or their suppressed insecurities. Those individuals who are grappling with low self-worth, carrying hidden shame, or hiding behind a carefully constructed, socially acceptable mask of "everything's fine, I'm perfectly happy," often walk around encased in a kind of psychological and energetic armor. This armor is not made of steel, but it is forged from potent, albeit ultimately self-defeating, materials. Avoidance of difficult emotions, denial of uncomfortable truths, persistent pretense that all is well when, deep down, it is most certainly not. It's a defense mechanism designed to protect a fragile ego from perceived threats and to maintain a semblance of control in a world that often feels overwhelming. Then you enter the scene. Perhaps you are naturally clear, present, and unapologetically aware. Or perhaps you have done significant inner work to cultivate these qualities. You might not even be consciously aware of the level of clarity, authenticity, or coherence you emanate. It may simply be your natural state of being, but your very presence, your unshielded energy, carries a vibration of authenticity, of wholeness, of what you see is what you get. And for individuals accustomed to living in a state of internal distortion, fragmentation, or self-deception, this kind of raw, unfiltered clarity is profoundly, almost viscerally confronting. It's like a sudden bright light shone into eyes that have become accustomed to dimness or darkness. This is where the psychological concept of projection, as discussed extensively in many psychological, spiritual, and philosophical traditions, from Freud and Jung to contemporary trauma theory, comes powerfully into play. When someone's unconscious baggage, their repressed fears, their unowned insecurities, their projected self-judgments, becomes too heavy, too uncomfortable for them to consciously carry or acknowledge as their own, they often, without any conscious awareness of doing so, throw it, like a hot potato, onto the nearest person who makes them feel something they can't quite name, understand, or explain. Suddenly they are uncomfortable around you, not because you are being mean, critical, judgmental, or aggressive, but because your authentic presence is inadvertently, yet powerfully, tugging at the edges of their hidden shadow aspects, bringing those suppressed parts closer to the surface of their awareness. And their nervous system, their primal threat detection system, sensing this internal disturbance, this potential unveiling of what they have worked so hard to keep hidden, goes into a state of alarm, of low-grade panic. They don't know how to articulate this inner turmoil, this sudden sense of unease or exposure. They likely don't even recognize its source within themselves. So what do? They get awkward. They might laugh too loudly at your jokes, trying to diffuse the tension they feel. They might over-explain simple things, a sign of their own internal disquiet, or they might fall into an unnerving, almost hostile silence, as if they've just seen a ghost, or as if you represent some unspoken threat, and you're left there, questioning yourself, wondering, am I being too intense? Am I too serious? Did I say something wrong? Maybe I should tone it down. No, more often than not, you are simply holding a frequency of authenticity, of integrated presence, that they are not accustomed to either in themselves or in others. And that unfamiliarity, that dissonance, creates discomfort. Imagine someone who has been sitting alone in a pitch-dark room for years, their eyes fully adapted to the blackness. Then you walk in, unaware of their prolonged darkness, and casually, innocently, flip on a bright overhead light. What happens? They squint. They flinch. They might cry out in pain or anger. They might even recoil and yell, "Turn it off. It's too bright. You're hurting me." Not because light in itself is inherently bad or harmful, but because their eyes have become so accustomed to the darkness, so unadapted to illumination, that the sudden influx of brightness is overwhelming, disorienting, even physically painful. In this scenario, your authentic energy, your clear presence, is the light, and their reaction, the nervousness, the awkwardness, the defensiveness, is often a response to the unfamiliar and therefore unsettling sensation of truth, clarity, and unmasked presence. Neuroscience even offers some intriguing support for this dynamic. Our nervous systems are exquisitely, almost unbelievably designed to pick up on microsignals from others, non-verbal cues, subtle shifts in posture and muscle tension, minute fluctuations in vocal tone. Even some research suggests pheromonal signals and electromagnetic field interactions. When someone near you is fully grounded, present, and authentic, their nervous system tends to radiate a palpable sense of coherence, of inner harmony. For people who are not used to such a state in themselves, whose own internal systems are perhaps in a chronic state of flux, dissonance, anxiety, or guardedness, encountering your coherent field can paradoxically make their own system start to glitch or feel dysregulated. Their heart rate might increase, their cortisol levels, the stress hormone, could spike. Their mirror neurons, attempting to sync with your state, might misfire or send confusing signals because their brain struggles to match or comprehend your unfamiliar frequency of calm, integrated presence. It's like trying to tune a badly damaged radio to a clear, strong station. The result can be more static and distortion, not less, at least initially. So, to reiterate with even greater emphasis, you are not too much. You are not making it. You are, in essence, holding up a high-definition, often unsolicited mirror. And the thing about mirrors is, some people see their reflection and are inspired to rise, to clean their own inner house, to embrace their own potential for clarity, while others see themselves, or rather the uncomfortable parts of themselves they've been avoiding, and feel an overwhelming compulsion to run, to attack the mirror, or to try and dim its brightness. Let them. That reaction, however painful or confusing it may be for you to witness, speaks volumes about their internal landscape, their readiness for self-honesty, not about your inherent worth or the validity of your authentic presence. Now let's talk about a sign that can really mess with your head, that can erode your self-confidence and make you question your sanity, especially if you're unaware of the underlying energetic and psychological dynamics at play. Strangers or even casual acquaintances, randomly challenging you, subtly undermining you, or hitting you with a sudden, inexplicable wave of passive-aggressive energy, seemingly out of absolutely nowhere. You walk into a store, polite, calm, and minding your own business. Perhaps you just ask a simple, straightforward question about a product, and the clerk responds with that tone. You know the one. It's dry, clipped, condescending, laced with just enough unspoken attitude, just enough subtle hostility, to let you know they've got a problem with you, and it's clearly not about the price of milk or the location of the bread aisle, or consider being at work. In a meeting, you present an idea confidently, clearly, perhaps even brilliantly, and almost immediately, someone in the room tries to one-up you, to pick apart your idea with unnecessary criticism, to subtly diminish your contribution, or to steer the conversation back to themselves. Not necessarily because your idea was genuinely flawed, or because they have a better one, but because they felt the strength, the clarity, the self-possession in your presence, and their ego, their sense of status or control, couldn't quite handle it. It felt like a challenge, even if none was intended. What's really happening here, beneath the surface of these uncomfortable and often bewildering interactions? Your energy, your authentic presence, often without any conscious effort or intention on your part, signals strength, inner stability, self-possession, clarity of mind, and a certain undefendedness that comes from genuine self-acceptance. For certain individuals, particularly those carrying unaddressed insecurities, a fragile sense of self-worth, a need to control, or a history of feeling powerless, this can make them feel by unconscious comparison small, inadequate, threatened, or less than. It's crucial to understand, and this can be a game changer for your own peace of mind, that you haven't actively made them feel that way. Your presence, your way of being, merely, and often inadvertently, highlights the insecurity, the lack, the fragility that they were already carrying within themselves. Perhaps long before you even entered the room. It's like turning on a light in a messy room. The light doesn't create the mess, it just reveals it. So how do they react when faced with this uncomfortable internal dissonance triggered by your presence? Often with a form of attack, a bid to reassert their perceived dominance, or to regain a sense of control, but rarely is it a direct, overt attack, especially if they pride themselves on being nice or professional. That would be too obvious, too vulnerable, too revealing of their own insecurity. Instead, they often resort to the more insidious, deniable, and frustrating tactics of passive aggression. Snide comments disguised as jokes, sarcastic jabs delivered with a smile, subtle attempts to undermine your credibility or qualifications. A condescending tone, a deliberate withholding of information or support, or pointed questions designed to make you doubt yourself or your intent. The interaction ceases to be a genuine conversation or a collaborative effort, and becomes instead a subtle, often exhausting power game, a dance of egoic one-upmanship. Why? Because when someone's identity, their sense of self, is heavily invested in maintaining a particular external image, an image of being in control, of being the smartest person in the room, of being universally liked and approved of, or of appearing superior in some way, and you walk in with nothing to prove, simply being authentically yourself, radiating a quiet confidence that doesn't seek or need their validation. They feel the imbalance. They feel on a deep, often unconscious level, exposed. Their ego, that part of the psyche tasked with maintaining a consistent, even if false, sense of self, sensing a perceived threat to its dominance or its carefully constructed facade, shifts into defense mode. Psychologically, this is often referred to as an ego threat or a status threat, a situation where a person perceives someone else as superior, more competent, or more authentic in a way that challenges their own self-image or their perceived social standing. Research in social psychology, such as a notable 2004 study from the University of Michigan by Bushman and Baumeister on threatened egotism, has found that individuals with more fragile, unstable, or inflated, but not genuinely high self-worth, are far more likely to react with aggression, derogation, or undermining behaviors when they feel their self-concept is challenged, especially by someone who isn't even consciously trying to trigger them, someone who is simply being themselves. So, no, you're not imagining it, that weird unwarranted tension from the waiter, that snarky out-of-the-blue comment from a coworker, the random person in a casual setting trying to assert dominance over you, or put you in your place. It's often not random at all. It's an ego defense mechanism, a desperate attempt by a fragile ego to re-establish equilibrium. Because deep down, your grounded, authentic energy feels like a profound, albeit unspoken, threat to someone who is still performing, still insecure beneath their carefully maintained facade. Think of it like two people standing before a large, clear mirror. One person has spent years, perhaps a lifetime, meticulously building themselves up externally, focusing on acquiring impressive looks, prestigious titles, a large number of social media followers, an impeccable reputation, all the external trappings of success and desirability. But internally, beneath the polished surface, they remain unsure, anxious, still desperately seeking external validation and approval to feel okay about themselves. The other person, perhaps you, shows up with a quiet, unassuming confidence and embodied presence, not particularly concerned with chasing approval or impressing anyone, because you have cultivated, through inner work and self-acceptance, a relatively solid sense of who you are, independent of external accolades. When both stand before that same clear mirror, who do you think is going to feel more exposed, more vulnerable, more uncomfortable with what they see, or rather with the contrast they perceive? That's why they might come for you, not because you are arrogant, conceited, or intentionally provocative, but because your authentic, unpretentious existence, inadvertently, yet powerfully, challenges their carefully constructed, often fragile, illusion of control, competence, or superiority. And when someone hasn't cultivated genuine internal self-worth, their default, often unconscious, response to feeling threatened or diminished can be to try and pull you down, to criticize you, to undermine you, to find fault with you in an attempt to bring you to a level where they feel safer, more comfortable, and less threatened by comparison. Again, the secret here, the way to navigate these challenging dynamics without losing your peace or dimming your light, is simple in concept, but not always easy in practice, especially if you've been conditioned to be a people pleaser or to avoid conflict at all costs. Don't bite, don't take the bait, don't get drawn into their ego's game, because that's precisely what their unconscious or sometimes conscious agenda wants, to equalize the perceived energetic imbalance by provoking a reaction from you, by pulling you down into the mud with them. Hold your center, keep your energy clean, clear, and undisturbed. Their challenge, their passive aggression, their subtle undermining, isn't truly an invitation to engage in battle. It's a test of your own internal stability, your own commitment to your truth. And often, the most powerful disarming and spiritually mature response is no aggressive response at all, or simply a calm, detached observation of their behavior, perhaps coupled with a compassionate, silent acknowledgement of their underlying insecurity. You didn't come to this interaction, or to this life, to play petty power games. You came to live in your truth, to shine your light. Let their ego wrestle with itself, with its own shadows and insecurities. You just keep rising, keep shining, keep being authentically you. This leads us to another fascinating and often deeply perplexing phenomenon that people with potent authentic energy frequently experience. People are either intensely, almost magnetically drawn to you, or they are strongly, inexplicably repelled by you. There's rarely an in-between, a lukewarm indifference, a neutral, casual acquaintance. You've probably sensed this polarizing effect your entire life, but perhaps couldn't quite articulate why it happens. Or you may have even blamed yourself for it, thinking you were somehow too much or not enough. People either feel an almost insane, inexplicable and immediate draw towards you, wanting to be near you, to talk to you, to connect with you on a deep level, or they can't seem to stand being in your vicinity, finding reasons to avoid you, criticize you, often behind your back, or subtly sabotage your efforts. They either open up to you within minutes of meeting you, sharing their deepest secrets, their vulnerabilities, their dreams, as if you're their long-lost soul guide or a trusted confidant they've known for years. Or they actively avoid you, become unusually quiet or guarded in your presence, criticize you subtly or overtly for no apparent reason, or even ghost you with surprising and often hurtful speed after an initial interaction. Does this pattern of intense attraction or equally intense repulsion sound familiar? If so, you are not alone, and there is a profound energetic reason for it. Here's the underlying dynamic. Your energy, especially if it's clear, strong, and authentic, doesn't just passively sit in the background like neutral wallpaper. It actively, dynamically demands alignment from those who come into contact with it. People feel it on a profound, often subconscious cellular level, even if they can't consciously articulate what it is they are feeling. And here's the kicker, the pivotal point. Your authentic energy unconsciously, almost automatically, forces people to make an internal choice, a vibrational decision. It's as if your mere presence, your way of being, flips an internal switch within them, prompting the silent, often unacknowledged question, am I willing right now in this moment to face myself? Am I willing to be real? Am I ready to drop my masks, my defenses, my pretenses, and meet this authentic presence with my own authenticity, however imperfect or vulnerable that may feel? If their answer, even on a deep, subconscious, soul level, is yes, or even a tentative maybe, they lean in, often with remarkable speed and openness. They feel drawn to you. They open up. They trust you, sometimes with astonishing readiness. They feel an inexplicable sense of safety, recognition, and perhaps even relief in your presence. This isn't because you're being overly nice, charming, or performatively engaging. It's because your authentic, energetic frequency, your clear vibrational signature, resonates like home, like a familiar and longed-for melody, to the part of them, their own authentic self, their soul that has been starved of genuine connection, unmasked truth, and unconditional acceptance, perhaps for a very long time. However, If their internal answer, their subconscious vibrational response to your authenticity is no, or not right now, or this is too uncomfortable, they bail. They might become suddenly judgmental, critical, or dismissive of you, finding fault with your words, your appearance, your very way of being. They might become unusually quiet, withdrawn, or emotionally cold and distant, creating an invisible wall between you. This is often because something about your clarity, your undefendedness, your authentic power makes them feel uncomfortably seen, exposed in ways they are not ready to handle. And that sensation of being truly seen, stripped of their usual defenses, terrifies the parts of them, their ego, their shadow, their unhealed wounds that prefer to remain hidden, protected, in control. The psychological and energetic mechanism at play here is largely about emotional resonance and vibrational alignment or lack thereof. We are, as human beings, naturally wired to unconsciously sync with or attune to the emotional and energetic frequencies of those around us. Those mirror neurons we discussed earlier are constantly at work, subtly influencing our own internal states. But when someone is carrying a heavy load of unresolved trauma, living a life that feels deeply inauthentic to their soul, or clinging desperately to a false, carefully constructed persona, you show up in their field, aligned, integrated, relatively clear, and fully present in your authentic self. Their internal system often can't sync with yours smoothly or comfortably. There's a clash, a dissonance, an energetic mismatch. It's not that they consciously hate you or wish you ill, though their ego might certainly try to convince them of that to justify their discomfort. Rather, they often unconsciously hate how they feel around you, because your authentic energy, your clear vibration, inadvertent yet powerfully, highlights the internal inconsistencies, the self-deceptions, the unhealed pain that they are desperately and often unsuccessfully trying to ignore, suppress, or manage. Think of it like tuning forks again. When two tuning forks are tuned to the same musical key, striking one will cause the other to vibrate sympathetically in beautiful, harmonious resonance. That's energetic connection, rapport, a sense of clicking with someone. But if one tuning fork is significantly out of tune, damaged, or made of a different material, it will either vibrate chaotically, producing a jarring, unpleasant sound in response to the clear tone, or it will not resonate much at all, creating a sense of deadness, discord, or disconnection. That's energetic repulsion, or dissonance. It's rarely personal in the way our egos tend to interpret it. It's fundamentally about resonance, about vibrational compatibility or incompatibility. So when people are drawn to you with an almost magnetic, irresistible pull, trusting you with their deepest stories, their vulnerabilities, their dreams, as if they've known you forever, even if you've just met, trust that they are, on some level, responding to your authentic frequency with the most truthful, open, and seeking part of themselves. They are recognizing something in you that they long for in themselves. And conversely, when people reject you, distance themselves, criticize you unfairly, or act strangely and defensively around you, without any discernible logical cause, try as hard as it may be, not to internalize it as a definitive reflection of your worth, your character, or your lovability. They are not, in most cases, rejecting you as a person. They are often unconsciously rejecting the part of themselves that your authentic energy, your clear light, is attempting to awaken, to bring into consciousness. And that awakening can feel profoundly threatening to an ego that has built its entire identity around staying asleep, hidden, or in control of a carefully managed illusion. For instance, you might meet someone at a social gathering or a professional event, barely exchange more than a few polite pleasantries, make no particular effort to impress or connect, and yet within minutes they are confiding in you about their entire life story, their childhood wounds, their current struggles, their deepest insecurities, their most cherished but unvoiced dreams. Things they might not have even told their closest friends or family. This isn't because you asked the right probing questions or employed some clever therapeutic technique. It's often simply because your presence, your energy, your way of listening without judgment emanates a palpable, almost tangible sense of safety, acceptance, and non-judgmental space, where they feel, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, or even ever, that they can finally drop their mask, let down their guard, and be utterly, vulnerably real. Your authenticity gives them permission to access their own. Contrast this with someone else at the same event who gives you sideways, suspicious glances, avoids making eye contact, offers clipped monosyllabic answers to your attempts at small talk, or perhaps even abruptly stops texting you or responding to your calls after one conversation that veered into slightly deeper, more authentic territory than they were comfortable with. That is often their nervous system, their ego's defense mechanism, signaling loud and clear, though often unconsciously, this level of clarity, this depth of presence, this authentic energy is too much for me right now. I'm not ready. I feel exposed. I need to retreat. The bottom line, the liberating truth is this: you are not meant to be universally digestible, palatable, or comfortable for everyone you meet. You are not here on this planet to contort yourself into a pretzel of inauthenticity, just to make other people feel at ease at the expense of your own soul, your own truth, your own well-being. You are here to be real, to be fully, authentically, unapologetically you, and that kind of potent, unshielded, real energy, naturally, inevitably polarizes people, and that's not just okay. It's often a sign that you are living in alignment with your true self. It's a divine sorting mechanism. So stop trying so desperately to be universally likable, to win everyone's approval, to fit into every social box. Instead, focus on being unapologetically, compassionately authentic. The people who are ready for your truth, who resonate with your genuine frequency, who are on a similar path of growth and self-discovery, will be drawn closer, often with a sense of deep relief and recognition. The rest, those who are not yet ready, those who are threatened by your light, those who prefer the comfort of their illusions, let them walk. That isn't rejection, in the way your ego might interpret it. It's energetic alignment. It's the universe gently, or sometimes not so gently, clearing your path of those who are not meant to journey with you at this time. Then there's the intriguing and often challenging dual attraction, empaths, those highly sensitive and intuitive souls, and unfortunately, energy vampires, those who unconsciously or consciously feed off the vitality of others, are often intensely, almost magnetically drawn to your powerful, clear, and radiant energetic field. This is one of the trickiest, most demanding aspects of carrying potent energy to navigate successfully, and it requires a high degree of self-awareness, strong boundaries, and skillful discernment. You might constantly find yourself attracting these two very distinct, almost opposite kinds of people. On the one hand, the deeply sensitive, intuitive, and often highly creative empaths, who feel an immediate sense of safety, understanding, and kinship with you, as if they found a kindred spirit, a safe harbor in a chaotic world. On the other hand, the emotional leeches, those individuals who are often without any conscious malice, but with devastating effect, seem to drain you dry of your vitality, your peace of mind, your very life force, without even noticing or perhaps caring about the profound impact they are having on you. Does this dynamic ring painfully true? Perhaps you've wondered, with a mixture of confusion and frustration, why do people always seem to open up to me with such overwhelming intensity, dumping all their problems on me? Or why do I feel so utterly exhausted, depleted, and sometimes even physically ill after spending time with certain people, even if we didn't discuss anything particularly heavy or contentious? Let me break down the energetic mechanics of this common and often debilitating pattern. When your personal energy is strong, grounded, clear, and coherent, it becomes in essence like a well-charged, high-capacity battery, radiating a consistent and inviting field of vitality. And guess what? Batteries, by their very nature, attract things that need power, things that are running on empty, things that are seeking a charge. The first type, the true empaths, are generally not the primary problem, although even interactions with other highly sensitive individuals can be intense if boundaries aren't clear. They are often drawn to your clarity, your stillness, the harmonious coherence of your energy, because it feels resonant and validating to their own sensitive nature. Your frequency, if it's stable and positive, can offer their often overstimulated, easily overwhelmed nervous systems a much-needed respite, a place of energetic sanctuary. It feels good and restorative for them to be around you because they sense they don't have to perform, pretend, or guard themselves. They feel seen, understood, and accepted at a deep energetic level, and they can simply be, which is a rare and precious gift for a true empath in a largely insensitive world. These connections are often mutually nourishing and uplifting, based on genuine resonance and respect. However, the second type, the energy vampires, a somewhat dramatic but often accurate term, is where the significant danger and depletion lie. These are often individuals who haven't learned how to effectively regulate their own emotions, who haven't developed healthy coping mechanisms for stress or distress, who haven't done the necessary inner work to heal their own wounds and source their own energy from within, but they instinctively, like a heat-seeking missile, crave the relief, the stability, the vitality, the sense of wholeness that your authentic, well-maintained energy provides. They can, often unconsciously, mistake your presence, your light, your peace for their peace, their solution. And when they find you, a beacon of clarity and strength in their often chaotic inner world, they may cling on tightly, desperately, not necessarily because they genuinely respect or value your energy as a sovereign being, but because they want to feed off it, to use it to soothe their own internal disquiet, to fill their own emptiness, to regulate their own dysregulated nervous systems. This isn't just spiritual dramatics or New Age hyperbole, it's rooted in observable psychological and even physiological mechanics. In psychotherapy and attachment theory, there's a well-established concept known as emotional co-regulation. This refers to the process by which individuals, especially in close relationships, help to regulate each other's emotional states through their presence, their responses, their attunement. While healthy co-regulation is essential for development and well-being, particularly in childhood, it can become problematic in adult relationships if one person consistently relies on another to manage their emotions for them without developing their own capacity for self-regulation. People with dysregulated emotional systems, particularly those with anxious, preoccupied, or disorganized attachment styles stemming from early life experiences, often unconsciously attach themselves to individuals who feel emotionally safe, stable, and grounded. They seek to use the other person's calmness, their centeredness, their coherent energy to help regulate their own internal chaos, their anxiety, their emotional storms. So, what happens in these dynamics? They might vent incessantly, without pause or self-awareness. They might trauma dump, suddenly and inappropriately oversharing intimate, often disturbing details of their past or present suffering, without considering your capacity to hold such information or the impact it might have on you. They lean on you emotionally and energetically as if you are their unpaid therapist, their personal healer, their spiritual savior, their emotional dumping ground, all rolled into one convenient, always available package. Often this happens without ever explicitly asking if you are willing or able or even have the energetic resources to take on that demanding and depleting role. And if you are not consciously aware of this dynamic, if your boundaries are weak or non-existent, if you have been conditioned to be a helper or a rescuer, you absorb it all, you take it on, you carry their burdens as if they were your own. You walk away from these interactions feeling heavy, foggy-headed, emotionally raw, utterly drained, sometimes even physically ill or deeply depressed, as if you've just run an invisible emotional marathon for which you neither signed up nor received any nourishment in return. A simple but powerful metaphor: your personal energy is like a pristine, clear, life-giving lake. True empaths, or healthy individuals, might come to sit by its shores, feel its peace, appreciate its beauty, perhaps dip a toe in, and maybe even leave a flower of gratitude or a word of appreciation behind, respecting its integrity. Energy vampires, on the other hand, often show up with large, empty buckets, or even with leaky pipes connected to their own toxic waste dumps. They dump their unprocessed emotional pollution into your clear waters, take what they need of your clean, vital energy to temporarily feel better, and then walk away without a word of thanks, without any sense of reciprocity, leaving you to deal with the contamination, the depletion, the emotional and energetic hangover. Here's a hard, uncomfortable, but absolutely essential truth you must embrace if you wish to protect your vitality and fulfill your own purpose. You are not here on this earth to be an unlimited, unpaid, and unappreciated dumping ground for others' unprocessed emotions, their unhealed trauma, their irresponsible life choices. You are not a rehabilitation center for broken souls who consistently refuse to take responsibility for their own healing journey, who prefer to seek external fixes rather than do the hard internal work. Yes, it is a noble and beautiful quality to be able to hold space for others with compassion, to listen with empathy, to offer genuine support. but it becomes an act of profound self-betrayal, a slow spiritual suicide if you consistently discriminately allow others to siphon your precious life force, to pollute your inner sanctuary simply because they are too afraid, too lazy, or too unwilling to face their own shadows and to learn to source their own energy from within. And if you've been conditioned from a young age, perhaps by family dynamics, cultural expectations, or even past life patterns, to be the strong one, the responsible one, the healer, the good listener, or the emotionally mature one in all your relationships. Listen very, very closely. That very conditioning, that ingrained role, while it may have developed some of your greatest strengths, is also what makes you particularly exquisitely vulnerable to this draining dynamic of energetic vampirism, because your light, your strength, your compassion, your clarity doesn't just attract love, respect, and genuine connection. It also, unfortunately but inevitably, attracts neediness, desperation, manipulation, and the unconscious projections of those who are still lost in their own darkness. Your job, your sacred responsibility to yourself and to your own unique purpose, isn't to try and meet every need that presents itself, to heal every wounded bird that lands on your doorstep. Your job is to cultivate profound discernment, to learn to distinguish between those who genuinely deserve and can benefit from access to your precious energetic field in a reciprocal and respectful way, and those who are simply looking for a quick, temporary fix at your expense, a free energetic meal. So the next time someone unloads on you out of the blue with a torrent of negativity, or you walk away from a seemingly casual conversation feeling emotionally wrecked, depleted, or strangely anxious, don't immediately blame yourself, question your sensitivity, or assume you did something wrong. Pause, reflect, recognize the pattern, name it for what it often is: an energetic drain, an inappropriate boundary violation, an instance of someone else projecting their stuff onto you, and then, consciously, courageously, and without guilt, choose to step back, to disengage, to protect your space, to cleanse your field. True power isn't just the ability to lift others up, to heal, to inspire. It is also, and perhaps more fundamentally, the wisdom to know when to say, with quiet, unshakable firmness, "This is not mine to carry. This is not my responsibility to fix. I choose peace. I choose sovereignty." And here's a beautiful, often overlooked, and deeply affirming side note that speaks volumes about the nature of authentic, clear energy. When your personal energy is truly clean, coherent, and emanating from a place of inner peace and self-acceptance, you don't just attract or repel certain types of people. You also often quite noticeably draw in animals, young children, and even seem to have a more harmonious, almost magical relationship with nature itself. You might walk past a dog on the street, and instead of barking or ignoring you, it stops pulling on its leash, its body relaxes, its gaze softens as it looks at you with a curious, gentle calm. You visit someone's house, and their notoriously shy, reclusive cat, the one who supposedly hates strangers and hides under the bed whenever visitors arrive, comes right up to your lap, purring, and settles in as if you've been trusted friends for a lifetime. You didn't do anything specific. You didn't try to coax them with treats or baby talk. Something in your energy, your very vibration, your unthreatening, peaceful presence, silently communicated to their instinctual nature: "This space is safe. This presence is calm. You can relax here. There is no threat." And that's the remarkable thing about animals and very young children, before they are too heavily conditioned by adult anxieties and societal norms. They don't operate on pretense, social constructs, or intellectual judgments. They don't care about your job title, your bank balance, your social status, your political opinions, or your carefully curated public image. They feel vibration. They sense truth directly. They recognize energetic safety and authenticity with an almost unerring instinct. Even plants, those silent sentient beings, can seem to thrive, to grow more vibrantly in your home or workspace if your energy is consistently harmonious, loving, and peaceful. They respond to frequency, to presence, to the quality of attention you give them. You might not even consider yourself to have a green thumb, but somehow your living space becomes a vibrant, flourishing jungle, a testament to the life-affirming quality of your energetic field. This isn't random chance or mere coincidence. It's resonant. It's the fundamental interconnectedness of all life responding to a clear, coherent, and life-affirming frequency. There was a famous, albeit sometimes controversial, series of experiments conducted in the mid-20th century by Cleve Baxter, a polygraph expert, where he connected plants to lie detector equipment and reported finding that they responded measurably to human emotion, to unspoken thoughts, to intentions of harm or care, even from a distance. Whether or not you subscribe to every detail or interpretation of Baxter's primary perception studies, the underlying principle holds a certain deep intuitive truth that resonates with ancient animistic worldviews and modern quantum understandings. Life recognizes and responds to life. Consciousness interacts with consciousness. Energy affects energy, and when your personal energy is clean, clear, and unburdened by excessive internal tension, unresolved negativity, resentment, or chaotic noise, life in its purest, most innocent, and most instinctual forms tends to lean towards you, to be drawn to your light, to find solace and safety in your presence. So, if you've ever wondered why animals and babies seem to just love you, or why you feel more profoundly at peace, more yourself, more connected when you are immersed in the beauty and tranquility of nature than you often do around other people, it's because nature, instinct, and innocence all recognize and resonate deeply with unadulterated truth, with authentic presence, with harmonious energy. And truth, in its most unadulterated, undefended form, is precisely what you radiate when your personal energetic field is balanced, clear, and aligned with your soul. This brings us to another crucial and often socially challenging sign of a potent and authentic, energetic presence. You find with increasing clarity and sometimes uncomfortable tensity that you simply cannot stand inauthenticity, pretense, or manipulation in others. And reciprocally, and often quite dramatically, inauthenticity cannot stand you. If you've ever felt physically uncomfortable, almost nauseous in environments saturated with fakeness, superficiality, or unspoken agendas, if superficial small talk, office politics, or social gamesmanship feel like a unique, almost unbearable form of torture to your soul, if you can sense with an almost visceral gut-level certainty when someone is being polite but not genuine, when their words don't match their energy, when they are wearing a mask or performing a role, that's not you being too picky, too judgmental, too serious, or socially awkward, as you may have been told, or as you may have told yourself. That's your finely tuned, highly sensitive, energetic system being acutely and rightly intolerant dissonance to incoherence, to the jarring vibration of untruth. And here's the fascinating, often empowering twist. This intolerance, this vibrational mismatch, works both ways. Not only can you acutely feel and be repelled by inauthenticity in others, but people who are deeply entrenched in their own inauthenticity, who are heavily invested in maintaining their false personas, often feel profoundly, inexplicably threatened, uncomfortable, or even angered by your genuine, unmasked presence. You don't even have to say a word. You don't have to challenge them directly. Your mere presence, your quiet authenticity, your undefended way of being can rattle the carefully constructed masks right off their faces, making them squirm, fidget, or lash out in defensive, often irrational ways. Why does this happen with such predictable intensity? Because when your personal energy is aligned with your core truth, when you've done the hard, often painful inner work of facing your own shadow, of integrating your disowned parts, and when you consciously, courageously choose to live with integrity, with congruence between your inner state and your outer expression, you carry a kind of vibrational truth, an energetic clarity that cuts through the atmospheric noise, the social static, the collective illusions, like a finely honed laser-sharp blade. People who are living behind masks, who are performing a version of themselves that they think will gain them approval, status, or safety, rather than simply being themselves, authentically and vulnerably, feel this. They sense it on a deep, often unconscious, energetic level, and it makes them profoundly nervous, deeply defensive, sometimes even inexplicably hostile or contemptuous. Psychologically, this ties back directly and powerfully to the concepts of the persona versus the shadow, ideas explored with profound insight by depth psychologists like Carl Jung and echoed in the wisdom attributed to Shi Heng Yi. The persona, as Jung described it, is the socially acceptable mask, the carefully curated public image that we wear for the world, the role we play in society. It's the version of who we pretend or aspire to be, to fit in, to be liked, to achieve success. The shadow, as we've discussed, encompasses everything we try to hide, to deny, to repress, even from ourselves, our perceived weaknesses, our unacceptable desires, our unhealed wounds, our darker impulses. When you show up authentically, grounded in your integrated self, with no particular agenda to impress anyone, no need to perform or seek validation, you inadvertently, yet powerfully, trigger the potential collapse, or at least the uncomfortable exposure of that false persona in others. It's as if you shine an unavoidable high-intensity spotlight on everything they've diligently, desperately tried to keep buried, hidden, and unacknowledged, and they instinctively recoil not necessarily from you but from what they are suddenly, uncomfortably forced to glimpse, or at least feel within themselves. Consider a common real-life example. You're in a group conversation, perhaps at a party, a family gathering, or a work meeting where everyone is laughing a bit too loudly, exchanging superficial pleasantries, engaging in performative agreement, essentially skating precariously on the thin ice of surface-level interaction, avoiding any real depth or vulnerability. You perhaps either remain quiet, observing the dynamics with your usual clarity, or maybe you drop one single simple real sentence into the mix. Nothing dramatic, nothing intentionally confrontational, nothing judgmental, just a simple, unvarnished truth, an authentic observation, a genuine question that cuts through the fluff. Suddenly, the entire energy in the group shifts, almost palpably. Some people might fall uncomfortably silent, avoiding eye contact. Others might shift uneasily in their seats, their smiles becoming strained, and a few might even display subtle or not so subtle signs of annoyance, irritation, or even outright hostility towards you. Why? Because you didn't play the game. You didn't feed the collective illusion. You brought an element of unadulterated real into a room, into a dynamic that was comfortably, perhaps unconsciously, coasting on fake. And genuine, unvarnished realness is inherently, profoundly disruptive to artificiality, to pretense, to illusion. Here's another metaphor that might illuminate this dynamic. Imagine everyone is attending an elaborate formal costume party. Each person has spent a great deal of time and effort selecting and donning their costume, diligently playing a role, pretending to be someone or something they are not, a king, a queen, a superhero, a villain, a jester. The entire social interaction is based on maintaining these chosen illusions. Then you walk into the party, perhaps a little late, wearing no mask, no costume, just your ordinary clothes, just being unapologetically yourself. Some people at the party, those who are perhaps tired of their own costumes or secretly longing for more authenticity, might feel a sense of profound relief, a silent finally, someone being real, and be drawn to you. But others, those who are heavily invested in their roles, those whose entire sense of identity or safety is tied to their masks, they panic because your simple, unadorned authenticity starkly, painfully exposes their elaborate costumes for what they truly are: cover-ups, performances, attempts to hide their true, perhaps vulnerable selves. This isn't just about social dynamics or psychological comfort levels. It's a reflection of a fundamental energetic law. Truth and illusion cannot coexist peacefully or comfortably in the same space for long. One will inevitably challenge, expose, or displace the other. And when your personal energy is deeply, consistently rooted in truth, in authenticity, in integrity, it will naturally, powerfully repel or be repelled by anything built on performance, manipulation, deceit, or the shallow, desperate pursuit of external approval. So, if people sometimes tell you that you're too intense, too serious, or too deep, or if they inexplicably ghost you after one conversation that dared to go deeper than superficial, surface-level chatter, please try to understand and internalize this. They are not, in most cases, rejecting you, your essential being, your inherent worth. They are often consciously or unconsciously rejecting the uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and perhaps even terrifying feeling of being truly seen, of having their own masks and defenses momentarily pierced or threatened by your authentic presence. Perhaps they are rejecting this encounter before they are ready or willing to truly see themselves. That is their journey, their process, their timing, not yours to fix, not yours to control, and certainly not yours to internalize as a reflection of your own inadequacy or too muchness. You are not difficult. You are quite possibly just remarkably, refreshingly, and sometimes unsettlingly clear. And clarity, by its very nature, always, inevitably disrupts confusion, challenges illusion, and discomforts the comfortably numb. So please, stop shrinking yourself. Stop dimming your light. Stop apologizing for your depth, merely to make inauthentic people, or people not yet ready for their own truth, feel more comfortable in their self-imposed shadows. Your authenticity isn't the problem, it's a powerful, essential part of the solution. Even if it burns a few masks, shatters a few illusions, and ruffles a few feathers along the way. Now, let's rip the cover off the real, often hidden engine driving so many of these perplexing and painful interpersonal reactions. Why can your very presence, your quiet, unassuming being, rattle some people to their absolute core, triggering disproportionate responses, even when you are being calm, kind, respectful, and utterly unobtrusive? It's because your energy, particularly if it is clear, integrated, and carries a high degree of self-awareness, doesn't just passively enter a room or an interaction. It actively, often unconsciously from your perspective, but powerfully from theirs, activates people's shadows. If you don't fully grasp the profound implications of what this means, consider again the profound insight often attributed to wisdom figures like Shi Heng Yi, or more classically Carl Jung, who extensively developed the concept, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. In plain everyday English, this means that every single human being, without exception, has a dark side, though dark here doesn't necessarily mean evil, but rather unlit, unacknowledged, unconscious. It's a collection of aspects of themselves that they hide, suppress, deny, or project onto others. This shadow typically contains repressed anger, shame, guilt, envy, jealousy, greed, deep-seated insecurities, unhealed traumas, unacceptable desires, and all the messy, uncomfortable, socially undesirable stuff that doesn't fit the good person image, the idealized persona they strive to project to the world and often to themselves. Now, here's the truly wild and often misunderstood part. That shadow, that collection of disowned energies and potentials, doesn't just vanish into thin air because they pretend it's not there, because they deny its existence, or because they successfully suppress it from their conscious awareness for years or even decades. It builds pressure in the unconscious. It leaks out in indirect, often destructive ways, through passive aggression, inexplicable moods, addictions, self-sabotage, or sudden irrational outbursts. And when someone with a tightly sealed off, heavily defended, and largely unconscious shadow comes into direct contact with someone like you, someone who has perhaps done significant, courageous inner work to face, understand, and begin to integrate their own truths, their own shadows, their own complexities, and all, they often feel an intense, deeply uncomfortable, and utterly bewildering sense of exposure, of being seen in a way that bypasses all their usual defenses. This isn't because you are consciously judging them, analyzing them, or trying to expose them. You are likely far too busy managing your own inner world, tending to your own garden to be overly concerned with theirs. It's because your integrated energy, your authentic presence, acts as an unconscious catalyst, a vibrational trigger, activating the very parts of themselves that they have been desperately, and often successfully, trying to outrun, to deny, or to keep locked away in the psychic basement. And that is precisely when the defense mechanism of projection kicks into high gear, often with startling speed and intensity. Projection, as understood in depth psychology, is the unconscious mind's ingenious, albeit ultimately unhelpful, defense mechanism for dealing with intolerable internal states. Instead of facing their own internal darkness, their own uncomfortable feelings, their own disowned traits, people unconsciously project them, like a movie projector casting an image onto a blank screen, onto you. Suddenly, in their eyes, you are the one who is too intense, reflecting their own suppressed intensity. You are the one who thinks you're better than everyone, a projection of their own insecurity and feelings of inadequacy. You are intimidating because your authenticity threatens their fragile ego. You are judgmental because your clarity forces them to confront their own self-judgment. None of these accusations, these labels, these feelings they attribute to you are actually objectively about you. It is their own shadow talking to itself, using you as a convenient, externalized screen onto which to project its disowned, uncomfortable contents. It's as if you become the unwilling human embodiment of a mirror they didn't ask to look into. But now, having caught an unexpected, unwelcome glimpse of their own reflection, they can't unsee it, and they desperately want to blame the mirror, or even try to break it, rather than own the reflection. For instance, imagine someone has deeply suppressed, unacknowledged envy. They consciously tell themselves and others that they are generous, supportive, happy for others' success, and completely selfless. But deep down beneath the surface of their carefully constructed persona, they harbor a gnawing insecurity, a painful sense of lack, and a bitter, resentful jealousy towards those who seem to possess what they desire but feel unable or unwilling to achieve for themselves. Then you walk into their life. Perhaps you are a new colleague, a friend of a friend, or even just someone they observe from a distance, and you are comfortable in your own skin, owning your space, radiating a quiet confidence that doesn't seek or need external validation, perhaps even achieving success or happiness in areas where they feel deficient. This can trigger them intensely, on a deep unconscious level. Suddenly, they might feel an irrational, inexplicable dislike for you, a visceral aversion, but because they cannot or will not consciously acknowledge their own painful envy, as that would shatter their self-image as a good and generous person, their ego invents other reasons, other justifications for their negative feelings towards you. She's so fake, so performative. He's so full of himself, so arrogant. They just think they're better than everyone else. There's just something about them I don't trust. The uncomfortable, unacknowledged truth, in many such cases, is that their projection is talking. Their shadow is reacting. Their unhealed wound is aching in the presence of your light. And here's another critical insight into this dynamic. The more unconscious a person is, the more disconnected they are from their own inner world, the more aggressively, defensively, and irrationally their projections can manifest. Your authentic energy, your integrated presence, becomes a perceived threat, not because of anything you do, but because of what your very being, your way of existing in the world, unconsciously represents to them: wholeness, integration, self-acceptance, truth, and authentic truth, by its very nature, always, inevitably threatens illusion, challenges pretense, and discomforts the ego that is invested in maintaining that illusion. This is why so many genuinely powerful, authentic, and spiritually aligned individuals throughout history and in our own times are frequently misunderstood, misinterpreted, criticized, ostracized, or even attacked. It's often not because they are inherently flawed, arrogant, or wrong, though of course no one is perfect. It's because they reflect back to others, with uncomfortable clarity, the very things those individuals are most terrified to see, to feel, and to acknowledge within themselves. So, if you have spent years, perhaps a lifetime, wondering why people seem to flip on you out of nowhere, why you might experience intense, beautiful connection one minute and inexplicable, painful rejection or hostility the next, this dynamic of shadow activation and projection is a core, fundamental reason. Your light, your authenticity, your integrated presence, unintentionally but powerfully triggers their unacknowledged, unhealed shadow. And until they are ready and willing to do their own courageous inner work, to turn inward and compassionately deal with that shadow material themselves, they will likely continue to mistake their own internal pain, their own projected darkness, for your problem, your fault, your bad energy. But now that you can begin to see this pattern, to understand its underlying mechanics, here is the immense gift, the profound liberation. You no longer have to take it personally. You no longer have to internalize their projections as truth about yourself. You can stop shrinking, stop apologizing, stop dimming your precious hard-won light just to keep other people from feeling uncomfortable in the unavoidable glare of their own unacknowledged, unintegrated truth. Because ultimately, triggering someone's shadow while undeniably uncomfortable for both parties is not an act of cruelty or aggression on your part. It is in essence an encounter with truth, an invitation to awareness. And sometimes, truth, even when it arrives in an unwelcome package, is the only thing loud enough, persistent enough, and loving enough, in a cosmic sense, to wake the unconscious, to shatter the illusions, and to initiate the difficult but necessary journey towards wholeness. But what happens? What is the real tangible cost? When you don't actively, consciously, and consistently protect this powerful, sensitive, and often targeted energy of yours. Let's talk about the profound, often devastating price you pay. And I'm not just talking about feeling a bit tired at the end of the day or needing an extra cup of coffee to get through a difficult meeting. I'm referring to a deep soul-level emotional burnout, a confusing and debilitating erosion of your own authentic identity, a spiritual depletion so profound that no amount of sleep, no vacation, no superficial self-care ritual can seem to truly fix it or restore your vitality. If you are someone whose innate energy is naturally strong, deep, clear, and magnetic, and you haven't yet learned or consistently practiced how to consciously guard it, how to maintain your energetic sovereignty, you become, often without realizing it, until it's too late, an unwitting, unwilling magnet for everyone else's chaos, their unprocessed emotions, their psychic debris, their energetic pollution. And over time, that constantly absorbed, uncleared chaos starts to feel indistinguishably, terrifyingly, like your own. You lose the ability to tell where they end and you begin. Here's how this insidious, often gradual process of energetic depletion and contamination frequently shows up in daily life. First, you might start doubting your own keen, reliable instincts, second-guessing those clear gut feelings, those intuitive nudges that once served you so well as an inner compass. You begin to distrust your own perceptions because they seem to lead to so much interpersonal friction or discomfort. Then, you might notice that you get easily disproportionately drained by conversations, social interactions, or even just being in certain environments, like crowded malls, noisy offices, or emotionally charged family gatherings that used to feel energizing, neutral, or at least manageable. Or perhaps you start waking up in the morning, even after a full night's sleep, with a vague, unsettling, free-floating anxiety, a sense of dread or heaviness for no apparent logical reason. You might find yourself increasingly saying yes to things you intuitively, deep down know for and wrong for you, are a no in your soul, commitments, requests, relationships, just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to be seen as nice or cooperative, or because you feel an overwhelming, inexplicable sense of guilt or obligation. And gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, then with increasing and alarming clarity, you lose the ability to clearly discern where your own authentic feelings, needs, desires, and boundaries end, and other people's feelings, needs, expectations, and projections begin. That, my friend, is not you being too sensitive in a weak or pathological way. That is the hallmark, the undeniable symptom of an energetic field that is wide open, unprotected, unfiltered, and constantly being bombarded and infiltrated by external energies. Imagine for a moment, if you will, walking around in the world with no skin, no physical boundary, no protective barrier whatsoever between your delicate internal organs and the external environment. Every microbe, every pollutant, every sharp object, every temperature change, every physical impact, it all directly affects you, penetrates you, wounds you. That's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Well, for an energetically sensitive person without conscious energetic boundaries, that is often their daily lived reality on a psychic and emotional level. Every emotion expressed or unexpressed by those around them, every unspoken tension, every psychic projection, every environmental stressor, it all sticks to you. It seeps into your field, and if you don't consciously, regularly, and effectively clear it, it becomes enmeshed with your own energy. It accumulates like layers of psychic grime, eventually feeling like it is you, like it's your own inherent anxiety, your own depression, your own confusion, your own exhaustion. Here's what most people, even many who consider themselves spiritually aware, don't fully realize or consistently practice. Energy moves in both directions. It's a constant dynamic exchange. You are not just broadcasting your own energetic frequency out into the world, you are also simultaneously and continuously receiving energetic information, impressions, and influences from everything and everyone around you. It's a two-way, or rather a multi-directional channel. So if someone around you, a family member, a colleague, a friend, even a stranger in a public space, is consciously or unconsciously dumping their fear, their guilt, their shame, their anger, their resentment, their unprocessed trauma into your shared energetic space, often through complaining, blaming, gossiping, or simply radiating a strong negative emotional charge, and your energetic boundaries are permeable, weak or non-existent. You will absorb it. Your highly sensitive nervous system, your empathic nature, your open auric field will start to carry and resonate with those discordant signals, those heavy energies that are not yours, that do not belong to you, that have nothing to do with your own authentic state of being. This is why so many strong, intuitive, empathic and creative individuals often go through debilitating, recurring cycles of burnout, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, confusion, and even profound identity crisis. Because they have spent years, perhaps a lifetime, unconsciously playing the role of an emotional sponge, a psychic dumping ground, an energetic caretaker for others, mistakenly believing they are helping, being compassionate, being a good person, or keeping the peace, when what they are really truly doing is engaging in a slow, painful, and ultimately unsustainable form of energetic self-sacrifice, a gradual erosion of their own precious life force, their own unique soul signature. Let's go even deeper into the mechanics of this. There's a well-documented psychological and neuroscientific term called emotional contagion, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You can literally catch someone else's emotions, their joy, their sadness, their fear, their anger, through exposure to their vocal tone, their posture, their facial expressions, their micro-expressions, even if they never explicitly say a single word about how they are actually feeling. Our mirror neuron systems, our limbic resonance, make us susceptible to this. Now multiply that effect by a factor of 10 or even 100. If you are an energetically open, highly sensitive and empathic person, you don't just feel someone else's mood, you can, if you are not careful, internalize it. Take it on as your own. Let it become part of your own emotional landscape. And if you don't establish and consistently maintain clear, conscious, energetic boundaries, you can start making decisions that aren't even truly yours, driven by absorbed emotions or beliefs. You might find yourself chasing goals that don't genuinely light you up from within, but that someone else projected onto you. You might carry guilt, shame, or responsibility that doesn't actually belong to you, that was subtly or overtly offloaded onto you by others. You risk over time losing the clear, true signal of your own soul, your own inner guidance system, because it becomes buried, distorted, or drowned out under the accumulated, deafening noise of everyone else's unresolved issues, their unhealed wounds, their projected desires, their psychic static. Let me be unequivocally crystal clear on this point, because it is foundational to your well-being and your ability to live a fulfilling life. You cannot fully step into and joyfully fulfill your unique, sacred purpose in this lifetime if your personal energetic system is constantly clogged, contaminated, and depleted by other people's energy. Your power, your clarity, your creativity, your innate brilliance, your very life force needs protection, not impenetrable, isolating walls that lead to loneliness and disconnection. Not a cold, cynical detachment that hardens the heart, but conscious, intentional, flexible, and loving boundaries. You need to create the sacred space within yourself and cultivate the consistent habit of regularly, honestly checking in with yourself and asking with profound self-compassion, is this feeling, this thought, this urge, this anxiety, this sadness, this anger truly mine? Or did I, perhaps, pick this up from someone else, from some situation, from the collective field? And if the honest answer, the deep intuitive knowing, is this is not mine, then you must learn, practice, and master the art of letting it go, of releasing it, of returning it to its source, perhaps with a blessing or a prayer for healing, if that feels appropriate, without explanation, without justification, without guilt, without taking it personally. Because if you don't actively, consciously, and consistently protect your energy, the world, with its myriad demands, projections, and unconscious needs, will use it, will drain it, will pollute it. And it certainly won't ask for your permission first. It will simply take until you learn to say energetically and sometimes verbally, no more, this far and no further. My energy is sacred, and I am its sovereign guardian. From this moment forward, if this resonates with you, I invite you to begin to treat your personal energy not as an unlimited, freely available public resource, but as something infinitely precious, sacred, and vital. Your most valuable currency, the very essence of your life force. And trust, with a deep and quiet knowing that the people who genuinely deserve access to it, those who will honor it, respect it, and perhaps even enhance it through reciprocal life-affirming exchange, will intuitively know how to do so, will naturally align with your boundary, and will never make you feel guilty or defensive for protecting your sacred inner space. So, how do you actually set these crucial life-preserving energetic boundaries without becoming cold, distant, unapproachable, or perceived as selfish in a world that often confuses porousness with kindness? Let's get something straight right away, because this is a common misconception that holds many sensitive people hostage. Having strong, clear, and consistently maintained boundaries doesn't mean you transform into a reclusive, misanthropic, "don't talk to me, I'm too spiritual for your drama" kind of person. It simply means you finally make the conscious adult decision to stop indiscriminately bleeding your precious life force, your time, your attention, your emotional energy for people, situations, or causes that do not align with your core values, that drain your vitality without reciprocity, or that simply wouldn't offer you a metaphorical bandage, let alone a transfusion, if you were the one in need. And if your energy is indeed naturally strong, clear, and magnetic, if you are often the one people instinctively turn to for advice, clarity, comfort, or a sense of stability, then you need these well-defined boundaries like you need oxygen, like a deep-sea diver needs a reinforced submersible, not just emotional boundaries, e.g. I won't tolerate disrespect, but specifically energetic boundaries, because without them, you are constantly unconsciously leaking power, being siphoned, being depleted, even by well-meaning but energetically unaware individuals. But here's the empowering, liberating news. You don't need to yell, to scream, to become aggressive, or to engage in dramatic confrontations to establish and maintain these boundaries. You don't need to justify your needs extensively with long, convoluted explanations that often just invite debate or manipulation. And you certainly don't need to offer lengthy apologetic dissertations for choosing to protect your sacred inner space and your well-being. You just need to get crystal clear, utterly unambiguous, within yourself first. The outer boundary is merely a reflection of an inner resolve. Let me break down some practical, actionable steps for how to put this into practice effectively, starting today. Step 1. Ground yourself consciously and intentionally before every significant interaction, or whenever you feel your energy starting to waver or become scattered. This doesn't require a 30-minute meditation session on a mountaintop, though that can certainly be beneficial too if you have the time and inclination. It can take as little as 10 to 30 seconds. A brief but potent pause before you walk into a potentially challenging room, before you answer a difficult phone call, before you engage in a conversation you anticipate might be draining or confrontational. Take a moment, close your eyes if possible, or just lower your gaze. Take a few slow, deep, centering breaths, feeling your feet firmly on the ground, your spine tall, your body present, mentally or even softly under your breath. Affirm something like, I am grounded in my own energy. I am centered in my truth. I choose what enters my field. I do not absorb what is not mine to carry. I am sovereign. This simple, intentional act primes your nervous system, shifts your energetic posture from reactive to proactive, from absorbent to discerning. It creates a subtle but powerful internal shield. Step 2. Visualize a protective, yet permeable filter around your entire being, not an impenetrable rigid wall. Walls block all connection, both good and bad, leading to isolation and stagnation. Filters, on the other hand, are intelligent. They protect while still allowing for positive, nourishing, and reciprocal exchange. Imagine a thin, shimmering, resilient layer of light, perhaps a radiant golden mesh, a vibrant blue flame, or a crystalline sphere, completely encompassing you, extending a few inches or even a few feet out from your physical body. This filter is programmed by your intention. It allows love, truth, clarity, joy, and genuine connection to pass through easily, nourishing and uplifting you. Simultaneously, it effectively blocks, deflects, transmutes, or neutralizes guilt-tripping manipulation, projected negativity, psychic debris, emotional dumping, and general energetic chaos from others. See it, feel it, believe in its efficacy. Practice this visualization regularly, especially before entering challenging environments, until it becomes an almost automatic energetic state. Step 3. Master the art of saying no clearly, calmly, concisely, and with zero added unnecessary explanation or apology. Every time you over-explain a boundary, every time you offer a lengthy justification for why you can't or won't do something, you subconsciously apologize for having the boundary in the first place, which weakens its power and invites further negotiation or manipulation from those who are determined to get their way. Practice simple, direct, and respectful refusals. No, thank you, that doesn't work for me at this time. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I won't be available for that. I'm not the right person to help with this particular conversation task, but I wish you well in finding a solution. My plate is full right now, so I'll have to decline. Period. No guilt, no lengthy convoluted justifications. No feeling like you owe anyone an apology for prioritizing your own well-being, your own time, your own energy. This takes practice, especially if you've been conditioned as a people pleaser, but it is a game changer.